What do you do when psychedelics don't fix you? Well, I've had my experiences, and I can only speak from my experiences with psychedelics. And what I realized is that what I brought into my journeys was so important when it came to my integration of what I experienced in the journeys afterwards. What I mean by that is I've spent my life trying to progress, not just in a material way, not just in a financial way, those things were included, but in a personal way. In my relationship with Christ, I was raised as a Christian. I came to a deeper understanding of theology in my 20s, which made me even made me yearn even more for a relationship with Christ. Um, I was a Division I wrestler. I coached high school state champions, multiple high school state champions. I moved out to LA. I was from a small town in North Carolina. I say about 2,000 people because if I told you the real town I'm from, it's like a couple hundred. So it doesn't really, people can't really grasp that, especially out here in LA. I moved to LA, became a personal trainer for millionaires, executives, business owners, uh, just, you know, celebrities. And along the way, I never gave up on my relationship with God, my relationship with myself, trying to improve myself, not neglecting my pride, like always being aware and growing in that relationship of awareness with my own pride, with my own selfishness, so that when I finally did psychedelic therapy, everything that I experienced in it was not overwhelming in a sense that I've been I've been spending my whole life um, running away from these things, like these like uh, developmental things, you know. And so my ability to integrate what I experienced was profoundly different than other people's when I hear their stories. And I can really um I think the reason is because I was practicing all these things before. I was working out consistently. I had an identity that I worked out, that I did physical things because I valued them, because that was a part of my identity as an athlete. And I valued what my body could do. And so I worked out, not always in a healthy way. And that's what psychedelic therapy has helped me with. But I at least had the practice. And even with, eating properly, I had the practice of eating nutritionally. And even with my prayer life, I had some type of a practice that I had been taught by my parents. I had the practice of seeking knowledge in the worlds of psychology, philosophy, theology, and even politics and history. Like I've been an absorber of information since YouTube became a thing, which was like in '06 when I graduated from high school. So for my generation, like the access to information on the internet was like mind blowing for us. Not everybody, not everybody my age was like utilizing it. For some reason, there was this arrogance, like, man, it's people on the internet. And I'm just like, yeah, but like Inside the Actor Studio with Brad Pitt is on YouTube now. Like I can watch it whenever I want. Like that's pretty sick. But stuff like that. But my brother and I were never that person. We always were like, whoa, like we want to learn, we want to grow, and there was a desire there that we always had, and we have until this day. Like we're still pursuing knowledge. To this day, I'm 37. I'll be 38 this year. But all of that, all those years of pursuing knowledge and in development in myself and in my relationships, how can I be, a better me for my brother, for my mom, my dad, my sister, for my girlfriend at the time, now fiance, for everyone I come into contact with? Because as Jesus said, the two greatest commandments is love the Lord God with all your heart, soul, strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. So, when you really try to put that into action, that's tough. And a lot of people don't really practice it on a daily basis. And so, it shows. It shows in the way they communicate with strangers. It shows with how they communicate with themselves. There's so much friction there between us and like the way that Christ spoke about. But all of that work gave me a foundation going into psychedelic therapy that once I'm out post psychedelic therapy, I have the tools that I just need to sharpen and use better, I guess. I guess is a good way to put it. Best way I can come up with right now. So that is not fixed by psychedelic therapy. Psychedelic therapy will expose, hopefully, and this is the hope, right? The hope is it exposes how you are in your own way. And that is the intention that I gave myself for my first 5-gram psilocybin journey, which was, my therapist, she's right beside me, sitting in a chair. I'm in the bed. I just took I don't know if I had taken the mushrooms or was about to, and she asked me about my intention. And the only real intention I could come up with is I'm doing this so that I can get out of my way no matter what. No matter what that is, I want to get out of my own way. And in that session, I really did. Everything that I experienced were the things that were in my way. And all of them had to do with my perspective on them, my relationship with them, and because I had a great guide, a great therapist, and because of the personal work that I had done, I was able to breathe and move through them and allow them to like really penetrate my feelings, my heart, and get me through to whatever was next in the journey. And that is a hard thing to do. You hear about it all the time. It's a very hard thing to do for people. They talk about having bad trips and stuff like that. And if you've been down the psychedelic therapy road, then you've heard enough people say there's no such thing as a bad trip, right? And their reasoning is any type of rough, any type of friction in a session is just something that you need to work through. And so, it's exposing something that you need to work with or work through, and you need to allow it to teach you what that is, whether it's more humility, more, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, I think it's just all humility. Like, how can I humble myself in this moment? How can I humble myself and allow God to be and not need me to be? And yeah, that's a very transformative moment. And if you can have that moment in a session, I think that is what it's. I think that's the deepest you can get from it. And I got a version of that on my first 5 gram session, and then on my second 5 gram session, I got another level or another layer of that. And once I received that, I didn't want I wanted the session to end. Like I was still feeling the mental, like, psychedelic. I was seeing the psychedelic images, and I took one more lesson away from that, and then that final lesson, I was like, okay, all right, I don't need to do this ever again. I got it. I got what I needed here. And there was this strength and humility, and it's like this combination of confidence, like with confidence with the fact that God's given me the quote unquote burden of manhood, or the gift of the burden of manhood. And since he's given it to me, I have to honor that. And I have to build a relationship with the weight of manhood. And that weight is the truth of being a man, which is you can build. You can build yourself, you can build relationships, you can build so many things. And I mean, obviously, you can build your relationship with God, but you can build. Building a better relationship with building and the burden of that gift um, is what I felt in my session. I okay, this is me moving forward. This is what I'm aware of now, and this is what I get to relate with. And I don't know if I would be able to receive that message if I had not put the work in beforehand. And I'm not saying that it's because of all these tangible things that I've done, but I'm not saying it's because of these tangible things that someone does that allows them to, like, quote unquote, like, progress spiritually. But there's a physical and a mental and a heart aspect to growth. And when you put a lot of physical work into something, you're proud of yourself. So you build confidence, and then from that confidence, you build courage. From the reps, you lose fear because you've done something over and over. Now, the heart relationship is not to become bitter that other people are not putting a certain type of work in that you're doing, so that your heart is not blackened by that bitterness, or soured, or starts to decay because of that bitterness. And that's very hard. And I'm not saying that I did not do that. I'm just saying, if you allow that to completely happen, not a good thing, obviously. But and then the mental side of things is the inner voice that is constantly on, and building a relationship with that. So all those things go together and help you, or at least they've helped me be able to bring in all of that stuff into my session, and thus, take away all the things I was able to take away. And but none of that fixed me, right? None of that took away the insecurities that I had fostered throughout my life. None of that, none of the, psychedelic experience uh, made me a better person, but it showed me where I was, and it showed me what was necessary, so that afterwards, it's on me to continue to do the physical, the mental, and the heart activities, practices to allow me to build a better relationship with those concepts and ideas that I experienced in my session. So I hope that made sense. Um, but psychedelic therapy is not going to fix you. It is how you integrate it, and finding somebody who can help you. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to create videos so that people can kind of get my perspective on it, because I would have loved to have had somebody like me putting information out there on YouTube, because I would have loved to have heard this perspective, and hopefully somebody else out there needs it. But more importantly, there's a twofold thing I'm trying to do here, which is kind of what we all do when we put out content. Is we're putting it out for somebody out there who maybe they'll connect with it, but we're also putting it out there as an expression of ourselves. These are ideas, these are feelings that we have, and putting it out there, there's something cathartic about it, and there's something that helps me actually get to know what I'm talking about a little bit better by just talking about it. So, I get to do this with all my clients. I'm a personal trainer. So I train a lot of people who have money, have a lot of money, and yet we are all the same. We're all struggling with the same selfishness, the same pride, and we're all trying to deal with it in our own way. And what I've been blessed with is clients who really do want to improve their relationship with their family, with their kids, and with themselves. And then hopefully with God. I think because that's the last thing that really changes someone. But the definition of God is what a lot of people struggle with. And they've not done any type of research into how God is defined by theologians or philosophers metaphysically. And so they've stopped that journey into God, or with God, into a relationship with Him for decades of their life. And my prayer is I can, in some way, whether just being me or talking or whatever, can help support them into that. Because for me, that is that's the kicker. That's the last stone in the game to get. It's like, oh, that relationship. Okay, build that. Because that puts everything in perspective, in proper perspective. I'm not saying I keep it in proper perspective all the time, but like having that is the proper orientation, because money's not. And the good thing about my clients being well off is they know that. A lot of people on YouTube are talking about, hey, like make this money, got to make all the blah, blah, blah. But there's always an amount of money where these people get to where they're like, oh shit, it's never gonna be enough. Shit, what do I do now? And then you have to redefine your priorities. You need to go back, redefine God, what He is, who He is, and then change yourself to relate with Him. And that's a very humbling experience, and it's a very hard thing to do for someone who has for decades of their life told themselves that they don't need to, and that God's silly. It's tough, and I try to facilitate that for people simply by allowing them to talk to me about it. You know, I don't have all the answers, but I can definitely point you in the right direction. I've listened to great thinkers on God. I have a good friend who is a doctorate in theology and philosophy who has taught me so much, and that can be helpful for people. So fostering that relationship for my clients is a big reward for me, because it's the most valuable thing to me. It gives me all that I have. And I don't have that much, but what I do have, I am so blessed. And it is because I'm checking my ego as much as I can. I don't do it perfectly, obviously. Obviously, I don't do it perfectly. But the fact that I'm doing it, I see in my life where it has blessed me. It's blessed me with picking the right woman in my life. But anyways, yeah, hopefully this is helpful for somebody.